On this, the 34th episode of Ask the Masters podcast, we're going into the trenches with Master Bill Drakeley of Drakeley Pool Company. Bill is a third-generation pool builder and a leader in the North American concrete construction industry, ACI. Enjoy this Master Profile episode.
Hello and welcome to the Ask the Masters podcast. This podcast is dedicated to discussions about the design and construction of water shapes. The hosts of the show are all certified SWD masters who represent the leading builders and designers within the water shaping industry today.
Hi, I'm Grant Smith with Aqualine Pools and Spas. I'm here with SWD Master Bill Drakeley from Drakeley Pool Company. Bill, it's great to have you here.
Thank you.
Bill, I know you have a long family history of being in the pool business. Kind of go back on that and tell us your background of your family and how you got started.
Sure. So my grandfather, who World War II vet, D-Day invasion, came back from his tour duty and started a septic and swimming pool company, late 40s, early 50s. He did originally line pools. He used to build the pool for clients. He'd sell the pool and have Esther Williams pay her $100, have her come out of the city and take the first swim in the pool. So that's how he would sell some of this stuff. So he started the pool and construction company, got into concrete, late 50s, early 60s, and that turned into a company called Scott Swimming Pool Company, which is still in existence today. I worked as a kid with some crews. My parents ran a swim and tennis club, which had a large pool, so I did lifeguarding, I did pool maintenance, I did pool construction with the construction company. So I kind of grew up with concrete and swimming pool water we had to do it in the summer. My brothers and sisters, we didn't lollygag. You finished school and you went to work, and that was the way it was. And it's an old Italian family where you work 5, 6, 7 days a week and whatever it took. And we had a saying: you work hard. When you work hard. When you play hard.
Right.
And that's what we did. So that's how my brothers and sisters and I grew up. I went to school at Northeastern University in Boston. Big sports fan. I played a lot of sports in college, and when I got out of school, I went into a management banking program, and I did a lot of co-ops through the school, and I just did not want to go shovel any more concrete, I just
don't blame
had enough of it. But I got into the corporate world, and I got into banking in Connecticut, and I'm like, I hate this. I hate sitting behind a desk, and I'm kind of a guy who likes to be his own boss or just create things, and so I'm like, I'm not doing this anymore.
Right.
So my family, we're kind of, I guess we're not odd for an Italian family, but I'm a third generation pool builder, and I have uncles who have different pool companies who have sued each other and been legal battles, and we kind of grew up in, I wouldn't call it dysfunction, I would call it normal for an Italian concrete business. So I went to work for both uncles in the pool business because they both asked me to come. I had a college education, I was a little bit of financial background, marketing background, so I said, okay, come in and let's help me run this place. So I worked for one, and then I didn't, I was going to work for him and his kids, I wasn't going to do that. Went and worked for the other one, and kind of the same thing. And I'm like, okay, as coming up through the trade, I would sell and build commercial applications. I would do the renovations. I would start selling new pools, client contacts. So I was doing everything for somebody else, and I said to my wife at the time, I'm like, this is, I'm 65 hours, 70 hours a week, and I'm not the one collecting all the proceeds. So in 2000, I started my own company, Drakeley Pool Company.
Oh, great. Now, you're an expert in shotcrete. Did that start with your dad, and did he do his own shotcrete? Is that how you kind of got into it? Or?
No, the family companies, the pool industry is funny, and I realized this when I started my own pool company, that nobody really knows what the hell they're talking about. Especially in concrete. And I went through when I was a kid, through the swim club and the family pool business to the two uncles' businesses, and they just knew what they learned from the guy holding the hose in front. I mean, that's how I learned. Holding the hose, I'm holding the hose, the guy and the nozzleman's in front of me, whatever he does, I'm assuming is correct.
Right.
And that's how the education and the generational flaws get passed down.
Right.
I mean, this is why we're all stupid.
Right.
Because there's been no training and we're watching the guy in front of us and he may or may not do it right. Chances are he's doing something wrong. So when I started my pool company in 2000, I knew that I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
I had a feeling. So I got involved with the American Shotcrete Association, and an older gentleman came out who was kind of the father of modern shotcrete, George Yagi, who has since passed. He was a mentor to me, and he kind of explained what's going on, and he got us certified as, trained and licensed as proper nozzlemen, me and a couple of other guys in my company. And then I got involved in the American Concrete Institute. So the American Concrete Institute is a global grouping of engineers, specifiers, contractors, suppliers who write technical specifications. So I went to the first couple of meetings with the ASA and the ACI, and I'm sitting there like, oh man, I really don't know what I'm talking about. And nobody in my industry has a clue that we're basically doing everything wrong. And that was, 2002 or so, so I started to get involved with that kind of stuff right away.
Right, great. Now, when did you come into Genesis? I mean, how did you learn about it, and then eventually, how did you become an instructor?
In about 2003 or 2004, I saw an ad in one of the magazines and it said, "How good do you want to be?" And I think it had a picture of forming steel, plumbing, big steel, double Ks, that kind of stuff. And I was used to that growing up because we did commercial installations. We did competitive venues, 50-meter pools, competitive stainless steel gutter, movable bulkheads. So my pool education as a kid growing up was big format, big steel, big pipes. None of that stuff was foreign to me. So I'm looking at a residential pool with a commercial specification, and I'm like, I never transferred the two. There were two different animals. Lousy little residential pool, 3/8 steel, maybe a little bit of 1/2 inch, 12 or 6 inch on center is a big deal. To the commercial stuff, and I'm looking at this one picture, and I'm like, that's what we need to do in my area and kind of differentiate myself with the rest of the competition. I already knew knew more about structural design and concrete implementation than anybody else, but I wasn't at that level yet, and that's where I wanted to be. So I saw the ad. I took the first, I think it was a construction school in Maryland. I was introducing myself to the Genesis guys, Skip, David, and Brian, and what do you do? And I said, well, I'm a pool builder, and I'm involved with the ACI, and would you want to teach a class? And that's at the point where, I brought up the fact, I looked at the builder's manual, and I forget the name of the guy who was teaching the construction school concrete and steel section, and I'm looking at him like, this is wrong.
Right.
And I brought this up to one of the guys, I think it might have been Skip or David. I said, you're teaching something that's incorrect here.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you talking about? This is the national standard. I said, it's not the national standard. It's a pool standard, but the pool standard doesn't mean anything.
Right.
Pool standards you blow your nose with and throw in the garbage. The ACI and the ASA say certain things about concrete, compressive value, durability, water cement ratio, all that crapola. So I showed it to them, and they says, well. And they kind of went back and forth. They called me. I forget which one. Skip might have been the one who called me, or David said, "Would you mind teaching or coming up? Can you do this?" I said, "Well, I'll tell everybody what I know."
Right.
And that's when it started.
It kind of took off from there. Why? I mean, going back to kind of the proper way to do things in the national codes, and why is that so important? I mean, I get this all the time. It's like, well, that's a code for, like a water plant or something like. Why is that code that you're talking about? Why does that transfer to the pool industry, and why should we use that code?
Well, it's a standard,
right? And
it's a standard of durability and expectation if you do things right. So the pool industry, concrete application, the American Concrete Institute, they come up with application technique standards and expected durability, lifespan, what this concrete member is supposed to do. The pool industry doesn't own the sprayed concrete process. The sprayed concrete process is totally independent of any industry. Certain industries take it and use it to their benefit, but it's not designed for the pool industry, like it's not designed for the subway or any of that stuff. So, we do a lot of the subway I own 3 companies, and one of them is Drakeley Industries, and we do subway design for sprayed concrete implementation, and we do training for underground unions. So Grand Central Station, 2nd Avenue, 7th Avenue, all the new subway systems in New York City, we had a hand in training or helping with the sprayed concrete process, which is, if you think about it, it's an inverted pool.
Right.
Or a pool is an inverted subway system if it's done right. So
Yeah.
the application of sprayed concrete and its benefits of self-consolidation, of adherence, of no cold joints, of monolithic shooting, of very high compressive values is universal to a lot of different industries. So the fact that pool guys say, well, you know, this is how we do in the pool industry, this is our expected values of, say, compressive 2,000 PSI 20, that's BS.
Right.
They're not following anybody's rules. The pool industry, and this is what I said in that first class, I said to the guys at the head of Genesis, I said, this is wrong. You're teaching something that a pool guy came up with, that some other idiot pool guy came up with years ago, and you put it in writing, you put it in the manual, and everybody thinks it's correct. Well, the source, the reference, the Bible of sprayed concrete is the American Concrete Institute. It has nothing to do with the pool industry.
Right. Yeah.
So if you're going to expect you're going to have the expectations of quality, durability, and quality implementations. The pool guys aren't setting that. That comes from the American Concrete Institute, and there are a lot smarter people there than there are in anybody in the pool industry.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a great explanation. I mean, I get asked that all the time by other pool guys, and you know, we've had those debates, you know, through the years. So I just want to clarify that. I know it's kind of off course of talking about you, but
it's, you know,
I think it's a great explanation, and it really clarifies it.
Granted, we get it a lot. So I do a lot of expert. The third business we have is expert witness testimony, construction defect, attorneys and litigation and depositions. We get this all the time. So, well, you know, the pool guy says he's been doing this for years. I've been installing pools this way for 30 years. I never had a problem. Well, number one, he's a liar.
Right.
And number two, he doesn't know what he doesn't know. But you can't, the pool industry is terrific. And there's a lot of good things, a lot of good education with the Genesis Group and what we're doing. But that knowledge, that reference history does not come from us.
Right.
And if you're going to use the process correctly by the American Shotcrete Association or the ACI, you have to do it according to their rules, not what the pool guys say, oh, I've always done it this way, because like me, hell, I made every mistake in the book. I'm holding a hose behind somebody else, and I'm watching him do it, and I'm saying, okay, I can do what he's doing. Whether that's right or wrong, who the hell knows?
Right.
So, I mean, pool guys just don't know what they don't know, and if they were to take it, I took a big step back. So I came into my business, the pool company, and I says, I'm not comfortable with what I know so far. I have to re-educate myself. So I did a very, very thorough, well, I think thorough, as a dumb redneck from the Northeast, I think thorough, re-educating of the standards and then applying them to my business. And that allowed me to do subway tunnels, soil nailing, wine caves, you know, anything with sprayed concrete I mean, shooting concrete is the ideal way to place, shooting shotcrete is the ideal way to place concrete. So shotcrete's a verb, it's an action, and you're spraying it. And man, there's so many things you can do with it, and there's no time limit, there's no expansion joints, there's no cold joints, it's all monolithic. But just having the understanding, Grant, of all that stuff allows me to open both doors. Right. And say, can we do this type of job? Absolutely. Can we shoot a grotto? Absolutely. Can I go from a swimming pool and shoot a set of stairways to a lazy river behind us? Absolutely. I don't have the fear that some guys have of placed concrete through the shotcrete process. Is just a lack of knowledge.
Yeah,
that's all.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So going back to like when you started with Drakeley Pool Company, you started getting more educated, getting into the Genesis program. Have you seen like an increase in the way your projects, as far as like complexity, and then also monetarily in your projects?
Oh yeah, my guys are pissed at me. They said, "Can't you just build a 20 by 40 in a backyard that's flat?" He said, "Can't you do it once?"
Yeah.
We went from a 36 by 18. Bluestone coping, gray plaster, pump filter heater, maybe a spa, and I was selling those back in 2000 for, I don't know, 50, 60 grand.
Right.
We just finished a project that's been in a couple of the magazines already down in Shoreline in Connecticut, and Rick Chafee was helping me with the acrylic panel. We have a Grando cover that comes out of the floor. We got a slot perimeter overflow on the grass side with a stainless steel holdback, 3/4 inch grass up to the edge of the stainless steel, which we fabricate ourselves. Downhill side to vanishing edge, Bazaza tile, or wet edge surface. It's $1 million.
Yeah, Right.
And my guys are like, can't we just build a simple? Can we go home at night and just finish what we're trying to do?
Right. Yeah.
So the education. I always said this, and I've said this in a number of magazine articles that I've done over the years. We write for the American Shotcrete Association. We write with Pool and Spa News, Aqua Magazine, with Jimmy McCloskey at Water Shapes. We do a lot of, and we're always in publication. And I'm very proud of that fact because people respect what we do and respect our project. And I always said I thought we would get there eventually, but without the Genesis education, without the details.
Right.
I talk about details in concrete technology and concrete science and steel and engineering, and Dave Peterson and I teach together all over the country, and Paulo Benedetti and Rick Chafee, and we do a pretty good job, I think, as a collective team. I think I would have got there eventually, but not as quick. And we grew leaps and bounds, and it got kind of tough for a while. I'm like, we're going from a rectangle pool in a flat piece of backyard to a vanishing edge with the weir wall toe hold driven down to ledge, or building a commercial residential pool on 65 steel piles in Long Island Sound.
Yeah.
That's a big jump.
Yeah.
So it went quick, but I'm glad it went quick. It was a big learning curve. I've made my mistakes along the way. I don't, I haven't. Each project, I don't have one project that went exactly as I planned.
Sure, yeah.
And I think it's important for everybody to know that, I got cracks in pools just like everybody else.
Right.
But I know probably why they occurred and how to remedy that, or explain to a client like, hey, concrete shrinks.
Right.
Your concrete's going to crack. It has to crack.
Right.
Based on going from a plastic state to a solid, to a hardened state, it has to crack. Whether it's a micro fracture or a micro crack or a big seam going down the middle of the pool, I mean, there's different reasons for it. So. Yeah.
It's in your market. Obviously, most of your competition is probably are you dominating your area of the market, or are there other good builders that are kind of around you?
There's a few good builders. I don't think anybody does it as technically difficult a pool, and our reputation is one that Drakeley Pools can do this, but Drakeley Pools cost us here. So we still go through a review by the clients. Not all of them, like the project I did in Greenwich with the acrylic panels. I have 2 acrylic panels, vanishing edge, slot perimeter overflow, stainless steel, glass tile, spa, everything. We didn't bid against anybody. The architect, the landscape architect, said, this is a guy who wants to do, the owner says, well, what can make a pool cool? This is what you can do, this, and this. I mean, there's a lot of things you can do. He said, well, let's do them all.
Right.
And I'm like, Jesus, made my big damn mouth. I mean, what did I get myself into? So that kind of stuff, I don't bid against anybody. But I still get the local, I'm in New England, Connecticut, New York area, and I still get the weekend Wall Street guy.
Right.
Summer house or something like that. And they don't know everything we can do, and I'm not a terrific salesman when it comes to saying this is why we're better than everybody else.
Right.
So we still compete, and there's still bidding going on with us. So I don't dominate the market because of that, and we're usually the highest price.
Right. Gotcha.
But the other good thing is, the amount of teaching that I do in concrete science, in pool construction, all the techniques of building a pool. Most of the pool builders in my area respect what we do, and they'll call me and ask me, how do I do this, or how do I do that, or can you come down and take a look at this for me? And I'm absolutely happy to do it.
That's great.
I took my cue from Skip Phillips a long time ago. You raise the bar, all the boats float at the same time. So if I can get everybody to help everybody to improve their product, then there's not that scumbag low bidder.
Right.
That makes the owner question what you're doing.
Right.
So, okay, you're here, Bill, and this guy's here. I want to be somewhere in the middle. And I'm like, I'm not going in the middle. This guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so I said, you think to yourself, well, how the hell do we get rid of these? I mean, I have a sign in my office that says, low bidders will be shot, survivors will be shot again.
Right.
I mean, they're the worst because these guys ruin the industry.
True, yeah.
They ruin the industry, they make mistakes, and they say, okay, this pool guy ruined the gunite's bad, or the shotcrete's bad, or whatever. So all pools are bad, or all pools are crooks. All pool guys are crooks, and that drives me nuts. So I'm happy to allow, I'll tell the guys, look, I'll tell you what I know. I'll come down and take a look at your project, and I'll meet with the owner and say, he's okay, or you just got to do this, and I do this for builders in the tri-state region. And I'm happy to do it because it allows, if I can help a guy, I get this all the time in the Atlantic City show. Somebody asked me once a class, Bill, why do you tell everybody your secrets? And my answer is because if I don't, and if I can't help a guy improve his product, you're going to improve your product and you spend more money, it's going to cost more to the client.
Right.
Then we become
a more level playing field.
More level playing field.
Right.
If we're like this,
right.
I'm not getting the job, and maybe the low guy's not getting it, but somebody else is getting it.
Yeah.
So if I can help somebody improve their product, charge a little more, we get a little bit closer. There's plenty of work out there. It's not like we're all starved. So being a low bidder is I just want to shoot you.
Right.
I mean, it's just awful.
Yeah.
So everybody can build a better product, quality concrete, do the right engineering, come up. I mean, we'll all have plenty of work.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, same thing for me. It's like it drives me crazy when we're $30,000 above the next guy, and it's like we cannot go that low. There's just no way you can build a pool properly without doing what we're doing, or at least this guy's not doing anything what he should be doing. So it's pretty frustrating. So,
I was listening. We all started selling these pools at this much, and $50,000. I can't build a residential backyard pool knowing what we all know now through the education, proper steel, concrete coverage, soil testing, drainage. There's no such thing as building a $50,000 pool. Not in my area.
Yeah,
it costs us more to do that. So if I'm selling a basic pool is going to be $85,000, $90,000. And we got guys still selling it at $50,000, $55,000. And the client would say to me, Bill, he's at 55. I says, he's not building the same thing I am. Because if he was, he'd be out of business. Right. He's cheating you somehow, some way. He's cheating the process.
Right.
Materials, engineering, soil science, you name it. He's not doing what we're doing.
Right.
And that's a hard sell to the client.
Yeah.
Which is why I think teaching and just kind of, you get to be, you don't want to be adversarial with your competition. You want to be respectful, and I think it's going to help the industry as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, going back to like you were talking about your employee, when you started making that jump from just doing, your 18 by 36 bluestone coping pool to more complex projects, did you just get your employees and your other, whatever, if you use any subs ready to say, hey, look, this is what we're going to do and we're going to move forward this way? Or it just kind of gradually happened and everybody adapted to it?
Yeah, no, it's, so when I went to local high school and guys that I grew up with, my brothers grew up with local. I mean, we grew up in a not rural, but a farming community, antique community, that kind of stuff. Old Woodbury, Connecticut's 1659. My family was one of the original founding families back in 1659. So we've been there a long time. So we know everybody. And when I started the business, I knew a couple guys from my family's company that weren't happy, and we started it. And we just kind of grew, and some of the guys come over, and we picked a couple of the guys. And most of the guys that I have are farm boys.
Right.
Farm boys are self-reliant out of necessity. They can run a backhoe, they can run an excavator, they can run a front-end loader, they can run a concrete pump, they can fix the trucks. I mean, so I have a couple of foremen, one who's close to my age and the other younger, close to my son's age, who are terrific, who know how to do this. Now, when I worked at my family's company, some of these guys were working with me, building these big pools. So the complexity of the project wasn't something that was over our head.
Right.
We could do it. It was just paying attention to the details. So we're, right now, I mean, I started with 3 employees. I have about 20 full-time. At the height of the season, I have 26.
Wow. We
have a full-service company, vacuum maintenance, chemicals. We renovate a lot of pools. And then we have our construction division's good. I have about 20-something trucks.
Right. Did you find, like, when you do commercial pools versus doing some of those residential pools that you were just talking about with the acrylic windows and the floor, the covers that come on the floor, are commercial pools kind of like not, since they're not as complex and they're easier to do, or can they just be as hard to do as really?
Commercial pools is hard to do.
Yeah.
You have exacting tolerance, especially if you're doing this competitive swimming environment. You're building a concrete pool in a yard 75 feet 1 inch, or meters 82 feet 2 inches.
Right.
When it goes from stainless steel touchpad to touchpad on a competitive racing, and the movable bulkhead's got to slide. So these parameters got to be exacting.
Right.
So it is as hard, and the steel's bigger and there's more concrete, and shooting's a little bit harder, but principles are the same. We talked about this yesterday in some of the podcast, and I think Rick brought it up, Rick Chafee, or maybe you did too. I mean, every pool doesn't have to be $1 million.
Right. Yeah.
But the principles, especially in concrete science, have to be the same.
Right.
You have water cement ratios, you have mixed design ratios and pozzolans and chemistry and all kinds of this stuff that are the same, whether it's a subway tunnel, a wine cave, swimming pool, you name it. You got to make sure you know what you're talking about. So that's the good part with our crew, is they understand all this. Because I preach this, until I'm blue in the face, and our guys get this, and they get the fact that, okay, we may need to change up based on the ready mix plant what their raw materials are, because of how it pumps through our hose, whether we use slick line or rubber or whatever. So it's the guys understand it. And back to your original question, I think the where we are as a crew, nothing's over their head.
Right.
We've got some smart farm boys, and I'm a country boy myself, so we.
Right.
And if we don't know, we will tell the client.
Right.
Like, so give you an example. This acrylic window was supposed to be an L-shaped fused panel from Reynolds, and we were going through a vendor who will remain nameless because they're goddamn criminals.
Okay.
I'm not going to name their name.
Right.
Right before shipping, we get a call that the manufacturer can't fuse the panels. They're having a problem. They did one in Long Island. They keep splitting. So they knew this a long time ago. They didn't tell me. The vendor didn't tell me.
Yeah.
So now I look, because I have a completion date for my client down there. And the client says, well, what are we going to do about this? This is a disaster. I says, well, as I told you in the beginning, I will tell you when I don't know. And I don't know that we can get this fuse panel. I don't know if it's going to work. He said, okay. He said, well, I appreciate your honesty. You're the first person to ever tell me that you don't know. For the pool industry, can we do this? Oh, sure, we can do it. I said, I don't know if this is going to work or not. So we got Rick Chafee involved, and we sliced the panel by the manufacturer. We got a big stainless steel mullion, and we put it together, and we figured it out.
Right.
The beauty of what we say to a client, and the beauty of our I don't have a filter, as you obviously you can tell. And I apologize.
No,
apologize,
right.
everybody. But I will tell the client exactly what I'm thinking. I will tell the client, look, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to perform. I don't know what the durability is. And I told the owner, I said, I don't know how this panel is going to react to the freezing, thawing of New England weathers with a nor'easter coming through.
Right.
So he said, well, all right, what are the options? I said, well, the option is we'll slice this thing, we'll put a stainless steel mullion on with Rick's help, and then we'll put a third hydraulic loop in the pool, and we'll run the water in the winter. You got to be okay with spending all the money on the heating.
Right.
We'll keep the water clean. We won't have it overflow, but we'll have a temperature consistency against the glass that'll stop flexure and expansion and contraction. Helps the silicone joints.
Right.
It helps the pool. It gives longevity to the panels, but you got to make sure you pay for the electricity and the gas, and that's coming down the pike.
Right.
And like Kabish, and he's like, I get it.
Right.
So, I mean, working with homeowners and just being totally honest, like, oh, man, I don't know. Let's figure it out.
Right.
And having part of the team, and we're all in a collective effort, that's what makes us a little bit different.
Well, it's, just being truthful with your client and expectations.
Yeah.
I've always found that out. I mean, you deal with a lot of extreme weather. I mean, I'm right here in Southern California. I mean, if it's below 75 and above 80, it's like we're panicking. So, I mean, with what you do, I mean, what kind of precautions do you guys do, like in the wintertime? I mean, do you work through all the winter? Or?
Well, sometimes we've had to. We've had to put electric heating blankets on the ground to keep the frost out. We've had to tent. I mean, we've done some big commercial pools on the ocean where a yacht club, and we did meters and did a big diving well, and we have hundreds of steel piles driven down a refusal, 2.5 foot thick floor, number 7 bars.
Wow.
Pump that in concrete and then shoot the walls. So we've had to get, general contractor had to get a tent, $150,000 temporary tent to work through the winter so they can make their Memorial Day party. So we do that. What was the other part?
Yeah, just if you're, when you work through winter, I mean, the challenges that you run into. It sounds like the tents and.
Well, so in New England, so we're working in Connecticut, Massachusetts, New York. So we have a temperature differential of 100 degrees, or if not more.
Right.
Coldest part is, I was minus 10 this past year. I get up to 105 in the summer. So what does that do to my product? And I'll tell the client. She says, well, why are you so much more? Why is all this steel? And the other pool guy said he doesn't need it. I said, the other pool guy doesn't realize he's got a 100-degree temperature differential. And you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, are on this hill, on the north side of the hill, going to take 0 degrees a frost and wind and a nor'easter, and then it's going to get 100 degrees when you don't have any wind going through when the sun goes on the other side, or when the sun comes up. I mean, so you have both. And I said, you need to build a pool that's going to satisfy that type of durability requirements.
Right.
I says, but the good thing is, and I've seen it happen to a number of clients, I said, if you don't do this the right way, you're going to have a chance of failure, and then you may see me again through construction defect.
Right.
I said, let's do it right the first time. And I've had both cases where, Bill, we want you to come out and we don't want you to say you told us so. I said, that's the first thing I'm going to say. I don't care. I told you so.
Right. I don't say they didn't know you that well.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm not a very good salesman, but I'm like, I told you so. And here we are. Well, what do we do? I said, you take it out.
Right.
Because the pool company who built this in, the pool cracks because of thermal conditions, thermal pressures. The pool's not going to get any better. You can't patch this kind of stuff. I mean, if you build a structure incorrectly based on its geographic parameters, you got to take it out.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, and I do that type of consulting and expert witness testimony all over the country, really.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I mean, where do you think? With Genesis and just in general, what you do, is the pool shotcrete industry, you think, moving a little bit forward, or at least pool builders?
Yes, architects and engineers. Our big push with the American, as a past president of the American Shotcrete Association and the chairman of the ACI 506 new Shotcrete Committee, which is the law of the land. Most engineers, architects throughout the country are picking up on minimum values that you're supposed to do. They're going back to ASA and ACI, or maybe for the first time, but they're realizing that, and the internet and the social media, it's got a lot to do with this, but the information's out there and they're finding it, and they're hearing about, well, what about this 4,000 PSI?
Right.
And of course, an architect or an engineer, most engineers, an architect, they're going to defer to the higher standard.
Right.
And then if they do a little research, they say, well, this is exactly what it's supposed to be.
Right.
So we get, so the American Shotcrete Association has a technical committee where people write in, and as a writer for the magazine, we'll get questions by homeowners, architects, engineers. Well, my pool contractor says this. Is this correct? And no, it's not correct. And it should be this, and here's your references. So slowly but surely, the word is getting out, not only about concrete science and durability, but Genesis program and the Society of Watershed Designers, and there's a lot more to pool building than what you see, Mr. and Mrs. Client.
Right.
I mean, there's a huge difference, and here's the educational background that proves it.
Right. Tell us a little bit about your work with the ASA, because you were the first pool contractor or pool guy, I guess you could say, that was on the board, correct?
I was the not for the ASA, for the
ACI. Sorry. Yeah.
So I tried to join the American Concrete Institute as a voting member of the 506 committee, which is the Shotcrete committee, which is all shotcrete around the globe. And I went to the meetings, and I was politely told that I'm not going to be on this because pool guys are the worst of the worst, and they make everybody else in this committee look bad. And I got that.
Right,
So you guys saying to me, said, well, Mr. Drakeley, we appreciate your enthusiasm. We want you to contribute. We're not going to let you vote because we don't want pool guys anywhere near the science and the engineering and the implementation of this standard writing. When they write a book, it's a legal document, ends up in court. We don't want a pool guy involved in that because you guys have screwed up the whole process for everybody else. Pool guys are the worst of the worst. I mean, all the nightmares you hear about bad dry mix or wet mix or any of the failures, 9 out of 10 times came from the pool industry. So I had to, and I realized that. So I sat there patiently and became part of the American Shotcrete Association, became the president of the association, was a pool committee chairman, and we started, we pulled Genesis and ASA together and started showing the products. And we started winning some of the Place Concrete awards for the ASA, showing good process, not just a pretty picture, but what we went about doing it. And we finally, at least my company and me, got accepted for what we did. And I said to the board one time, I said, look, they said, well, Bill, would you help write some of these technical papers, and would you help us on the General 506 committee? I says, I will. I says, but you guys need to embrace the pool industry a little bit more. Why? And I says, well, if 9 out of 10 of the problems are caused by the pool industry, and you have no pool industry representation here, how do you think the pool industry is going to get any better?
Yeah.
And how are you not going to keep getting black eyes from somebody else? Okay, would you come on? I said, yeah. So I'm the only voting member from the pool industry on the ACI committee in the country.
Right, yeah.
And we have a subcommittee now. It's called Pool Shotcrete. It's a 506OH, and we're going to write a technical manual specifically for pool guys and pool shotcrete.
Oh, that's great.
And so that'll be whoever's going to, whether you're shooting out here in California or up in Maine or in Florida, that's the Bible.
Right.
That's the legal document that an attorney's going to take to court and lay it on the witness stand and say, did you follow these techniques, yes or no?
Right.
And that's what it's going to come down to. So we're doing that for education of the pool industry. We're doing it for education for the homeowner. We're doing to get everybody on the same page. So you can't go take a look at some manual written by the pool industry.
Right.
And it says right here, this is what they recommend.
Right. And there's no doubt as far as like, if I have a client that, doesn't believe me because she's got, or he or she's got 5 other people talking her ear on the other side, I can say, well, just look at the reference in the ACI. And right now it just kind of says, this is just for like a tank that holds water.
Right.
And they don't translate to that actually means a pool because a pool holds water. So that'd be great if you come out with something specific.
Well, that's why we didn't have, the ACI didn't have anyone to steer this committee. They didn't have a pool person in the know who was a voting member of the entire group, and now they do.
Yeah.
And I brought in other pool guys and engineers to kind of help with this document, along with the engineering crew and the specifiers from ACI 506 now. I mean, most of the people who are on this committee are not pool related whatsoever, which is what I want. But we need some type of pool input to make it relevant for our industry. So once we get this should be a huge help to everybody.
Right.
And the only deterrent it's going to be is to people who write their own stuff, who minimize the values.
Right. Yeah.
Any engineers or any specifiers or any subcontractors who say, well, we shoot 2,500 PSI, you're not going to like this document.
Right. Yeah.
Because we call it as we see it.
Right.
And if you're going to use this process, the sprayed concrete process, if you're going to use it and you're going to call it the same name we have it in ACI and ASA, here are the rules. If you're going to come up with your own process and call it something different and you're not going to abide by that, we'll call it something different.
Right.
But don't take our process and bastardize it because you want to cheapen the product and cheapen the cost to the client or cut out your cement content or whatever you're going to do. Don't call what we have here. Call it your own thing.
Right. Gotcha. I mean, what are you looking forward to in the future as far as like, your business, where you expect to be at in 10 years or you expect to kind of pass it along to somebody else, or are you just going to keep on trucking until, you're done?
Well, I got plenty of bills to pay, so there's no retirement in my future.
Right.
And the Drakeley Pool Company is, we're working, I have my son involved in now with our crew, and I have my daughter who's taking a look at some of the Drakeley Industry facets. So, of the 2 or 3 companies, I want them all to be sustainable. And we're working to a point, Grant, where they can survive without me. And as an entrepreneur and kind of the guy who started this part, it's very difficult because I went through a family business, and I see how from the matriarch down to the 2nd generation to the 3rd generation, it gets tough. It's not easy. But having sustainability and having that thought process and not having your thumb on every decision is important. Now, we're going through some growing pains where I sell, and the clients want to talk to me based on, especially on the more difficult pools, I'm the one selling it. And I got to kind of transition myself out of it and bring some more people in. So we're going to look for some project managers, and we're going to look to grow the company as far in terms of volume and in terms of capability of the younger generation, and just kind of let them blossom. And there's going to be some bumps in the road, but it's my goal in 10 years. I still want to be doing what I'm doing because I'm still going to owe plenty of money to plenty of people. I'm sure about that. But I want to do some more teaching. I want to do some more travel and not have to dispatch in the morning.
Right.
I'm breaking away from that now, but there's always a general contractor calling, I need you to do this, or what's going on here, and I'm like, I don't know, my guy's got this. So we haven't figured that out yet, but we have a good office staff, we have good people. We have an office manager named Carrie who's fabulous and very much smarter than anybody in the, all the folks in the office are smarter than I am. So
Right. Okay.
I'll let them do their thing.
Yeah. So it's just to be have a good, like I find out, either have good employees and good subcontractors, and
Right.
then everything else is easy. So
Yeah, it's a good process, and the concrete business is always changing.
right.
And with the American Concrete Institute and with groups like Genesis, and I teach at NESPA, the New England Spa and Pool Region 1, and some of the other venues, whether it's with SWD or Genesis or other folks. I like to do that, and there's always expert witness
Right.
stuff. I'm
Yeah.
always going to, and I think that's going to be building up as we go on until we get to a point where these new builders coming in, I mean, you get new companies starting and they're more savvy than I was, especially with social media.
Yeah.
So all the educational stuff that we're doing and all the teachings, people push of a button can find out what it's about. Like
Right.
you know, when I started in 2000, I wasn't doing that. I was
Yeah.
looking at a magazine, I saw an ad,
Right.
here I am.
Yeah.
I was lucky.
Right.
If I didn't see the ad, I don't know if I'd be sitting here.
Yeah.
I know that.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Well, Bill, it's great to have you here today. I mean, you've taught me a lot over the years. I always look to you to actually teach us how to do it right. So I absolutely raised the bar in the industry, and we
Appreciate
really
it.
appreciate it. So
Well, I try not to screw it up too much.
yeah, there you go. So, all right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Ask the Masters podcast, and don't forget to check out our Facebook page each week on Tuesdays for new episodes of the show. I also want to encourage you to stop by the Ask the Masters Facebook page and invite other like-minded individuals to join us there as well. Feel free to jump into the conversations and even post your own questions. We want to create a community which fosters learning and discovery for the betterment of us all. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, and Spotify. Please be sure to subscribe and feel free to share.